Welcome to Faith Over Fear, the Christian Pregnancy and Birth podcast. I'm Natalie Portman, a wife, mama, birth doula, and childbirth educator. And I believe God has a better way for us to experience birth, one without fear, striving, or self-glorification. If you're ready to stop feeling overwhelmed and instead trust the Lord more deeply in pregnancy, birth, and motherhood, you're in the right place. Here you'll find inspiring birth stories, biblical encouragement, and practical wisdom to help you walk in faith over fear during this beautiful and challenging season. Now let's get started. Hey friend, and welcome back to Faith Over Fear, the Christian Pregnancy and Birth podcast. I'm so glad you're here with us today, and I'm joined today by Jamie Ortiz. She's a pediatric sleep coach, a military spouse, and mama of two with a special certification to support neurodivergent children up to age 6. She's passionate about helping families find sleep solutions that are not just effective, but also compassionate and personalized. Before we get into the work Jamie does as a sleep consultant, she's going to start by sharing her own powerful journey into motherhood, including the highs, the heartbreaks, and the ways God met her in each season. So Jamie, thank you so much for being here today. I know your motherhood journey kind of began in a heartbreaking way, but would you feel comfortable just sharing the story of your first pregnancy and just how the Lord met you in the midst of that loss?
Yeah. So thank you first for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And, you really never know if your story resonates with somebody else who might, another woman who's kind of going through it, right? We were stationed in Hawaii at the time that I got pregnant with our firstborn, and my husband was set to deploy. And so we decided, go back home, right? So you're not by yourself. We were around family, all of those fun things. And the morning that I landed, later that night, I thought I peed myself. I was laughing so hard. I thought I peed myself, which they say happens when you're pregnant. And my sister-in-law was like, no, like that's too much. And then there was like no color in it, so I was like, okay, my water broke. I was 5 months pregnant. I was about 2 weeks shy of when the lungs come in. And I can't remember what week that is. I think that's in week 24. So I think I was like about 20 weeks at this point. And so I get hospitalized. My husband calls me. He's like, hey, we just landed in Korea, which was where he was doing his deployment. And I said, I literally just got to the hospital and my water broke. And, everything was going fine. They had a plan for me. They were like, there was no fluid whatsoever. So there were, of course, concerns that baby wasn't going to develop the way that baby should develop. The doctor was like, the baby, we didn't know the gender yet. I knew it was a boy. I definitely know that the reason why I had the dreams that I had was because God knew, right? So I knew it was going to be a boy. And then she wanted me to terminate. And I thought she was absolutely insane. I said, I don't care if this baby has its arm growing out of his head. Like, I'm keeping him. Like, how dare you? So they came up with a plan of, bed rest. And then after about a week or so, they were going to release me and then bring me back to a different hospital that had like a stronger NICU because they knew that I wasn't going to go full term. They just didn't know when. And so all that was into play. And then the day that I was getting released to go back home, I was complaining about a pain, and I have 2 herniated discs. So I just thought, well, I've been in bed for about 2 weeks. It's my disc, but they checked me out anyway. And it's like literally as the nurse was taking out my IV, they were like rushing in like, no, you have a blood clot. You have this, you have that. And it's like, okay, so I couldn't leave. Now it becomes an emergency for like my husband too, because at this point he wasn't set to come anyway. We were just going to wait. And then if you guys know, if your spouse is deployed, anytime there's an emergency that requires them, you have to send a Red Cross message, and it has to go through like all these people before it gets to him. Thankfully, he has his phone, so he knew everything in real time. And so I stayed in the hospital. And then it just got to the point where he just wasn't going to wait. But he didn't have his lungs yet. So at that point, my body gave birth. We knew he wasn't going to make it. My husband did make it literally 30 minutes before it was time to start pushing. And that was because my brother's in law enforcement. And so he picked him up and brought him like with the sirens on, and he made it. And so, we knew he wasn't going to make it. It was my immediate family and my husband in the room, and it was depressing, as you could imagine, but it was also really great because my dad prayed over our son, he prayed over us, we were there as a family. And then every pregnancy after that has been nothing but drama filled and a high risk. I mean, just everything. My husband was deployed for the son that we have now, and same thing. I had to be hospitalized for a month and a half, and then my water broke, and just a mess. And we have 2 children here, on Earth, a boy and a girl, and 6 and 4, and they keep me busy, and I love them.
Oh, Jamie, that is insane that was your experience, especially not having your husband there, that you were navigating all of that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, they knew at that point, I think while he was had a layover in some state, and that's when we knew the baby's not going to make it. And so I didn't make that phone call. My dad handled that phone call. He's like, "Do you want to do it or do you want me?" And I said, "No, you do it. I don't want to do it." And so, it was just like, it was crazy. And at the same time, I saw God throughout the beginning. That pregnancy always felt wrong. Something was like, I was bleeding the entire first trimester, which they say can happen, but it's very rare. Then, I kept having dreams of this boy in different ages. And I knew, I'm like, I'm having a boy, like I know it. And then I remember I was early on pregnant and I was reading, I think it was First Kings or First Samuel. I always get them confused. But Elisha knows his son isn't going to make it. And he says, "He is the Lord, let him do what is good in his eyes." And for whatever reason, that stuck with me. And I wrote it down. I put it on my mirror. I looked at it every day. I had no idea that it was going to turn into what it turned out to be. But when I knew he wasn't going to make it, that's what I kept going to. Like, I just kept going back to that verse so that I wouldn't go insane. Because as you could imagine, So a lot of crying, of course, by myself. I didn't want to cry in front of my family. Even when my husband was in the shower, that's when I would cry. I would not cry in front of him. But when they were going to release me, had they released me because of that blood clot, I would have probably died in my sleep at this point, if we're honest, because I feel like everybody dies in their sleep from a blood clot instead of having it do its thing when you're awake. So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
But I mean, what a powerful thing that the Lord was going before you and just showing you his heart and his character ahead of everything else that was going to unfold, because the Lord knew.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that's what he had decided to have your story be. But I mean, how beautiful that he was so close to you during that time.
Yeah.
It's so sad to think that you were, just having to grieve kind of in silence, but that you did have the Lord there with you to navigate all of the emotions that would go along with a loss like that.
Yeah, and I felt all the emotions. I didn't feel anger, and I didn't question him either, which I think some women, when they do it, they struggle. And I think that's natural. Like, I think that I was not natural in that moment. Like, it was supernatural that I didn't go to that side where, like, I wasn't mad or I wasn't questioning him. It was like, well, I don't know why he did it, but I mean, who am I? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just leave the grief to be private, because that's just how I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all grieve so differently.
Yeah.
And then you had a somewhat complicated second pregnancy too. Do you mind kind of sharing what all happened in that pregnancy and birth experience?
Yeah. So with him, his name's Daniel. My husband again was getting ready to deploy. I don't remember if it was back to Africa. I think it was Korea or Poland. And same thing, I'm getting ready, things getting ready. They found out that I had a septate uterus, so I had surgery, which is why my water broke so early with our firstborn. They figured that out, so they kept monitoring me as a high risk. And then literally the day before we were supposed to leave Texas to go back home, because I was going to go back home because he was deploying, they were like, "Oh my gosh, you almost have no cervix. Your cervix has thinned out so much." And I'm like, I've literally been here every week and it's been fine. So then now I'm freaking out. Like, I didn't know what that meant because that wasn't the issue the first time. So I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And, they explained everything. So they opened the OR so that I could have surgery on that Saturday, made sure that, I was fine to travel, because I can't fly at this point as a pregnant person that had a history of DVT. And so we drove. My husband drives back to Texas, and I think at my first high-risk appointment, the doctor was like, "No, girl, your cervix is still extra thin than the last time. My advice is you get hospitalized, put you on bed rest, monitor you." I was there for a month and a half, had to cancel everything that I had for my baby shower, move it over to the hospital, which was it was great. It was cute, Actually loved my experience there. Me and my mom joke around all the time that it was a hotel stay because I got garden privileges, which is nice because some of these women they were also on bed rest, but they couldn't even get out of the room. Like I could at least go downstairs. I could go outside. So I'm like, it ended up being great, but then they released me. I go back home and I think like a week later, my water broke and I was 7 months pregnant at this time. So my husband was not there for the birth. He was there via FaceTime. Thank God that there is technology. And then my body does not take to epidural. So they gave me, I think 3 times the epidural. And my body was like, no, girl, we're not doing this. So I felt everything, ripped from all front to back, felt all of that when they were sewing me back up. I mean, it was awful. But they were prepared for him. So he had, they gave me the steroid shots for him. So he was completely healthy. I mean, he was in the NICU for like 2 weeks. He didn't need help breathing. So that's great because, most of the babies in the NICU, they need that support. He didn't need that support. He was a massive preemie. And then with my daughter, she got to 8 months. I was 8 months with her. The only thing with her was that she ended up being emergency C-section. I needed 2 blood transfusions. And I mean, it's just not, listen, even after my son, I was ready to just be done being pregnant. Like my body does not do well, but God had other plans because we did everything but abstinence to not have one. And the Lord was like, nah, we're going to give you the girl. And she's so funny. I love her so much. She's my wild.
Oh, that's so well. And I didn't realize your son was also named Daniel. That's my son's name.
Oh yeah, I love that name. It's such a good, strong name. Yeah,
it is the best, and he's named after my dad, Daniel. But I also just love Daniel in the Bible, where he was a man who was in the world but not of the world, and I really wanted to. I mean, I pray that over both of my kids, but that was one of the biggest reasons why I named him that, because I just love Daniel in the Bible. But that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have one of each too, so I get it. The girl and the boy. Well, then how did you become a sleep consultant? Did that kind of start after your very wild birth experiences? How did the Lord kind of draw you into that line of work?
So, I mean, for most, it's the same. You're sleep deprived and you're like, what are we going to do? And I started researching for my son when he was 8 months old, but it was so crazy expensive. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't have $800 to give, So we did the old school. We're like, well, you just cry and you'll be all right. Like all your needs are met. No baby has ever passed away from crying. We all went through it. Our relationships with our parents are great because, so let's do it. He was on a schedule, so he didn't even cry. He just needed his own space. And so for my daughter, I was like, okay, we're going to do this differently. And so after her, that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to actually do this because parents need to know, like, it's not just one thing. There's different ways of going about it. And so then I got certified through the Cradle Coach Academy. And I mean, I haven't looked back since, and it's been almost 4 years now.
That's so cool. Yeah, there's no one size fits all when it comes to sleep training. And I will recommend, certain courses and things. And, now that we've connected, I recommend clients to you. Mm-hmm. But I think there is a lot of misunderstanding about sleep training, that it only looks one way, or that it's just like you're not responsive to your kids. Right. That it's too schedule oriented, or, it's not personalized. Yeah. So for, mamas who are listening to this that want to explore quote unquote sleep training, what encouragement could you give to them about what that might look like, or what that even looks like with your practice?
So the first thing I would say is think about what are your end goals and how do you want to get there, right? Because sometimes families, they don't have a lot of time. I've worked with a family where they were both doctors. They did not have time to do the most gentle type approach because I'm very honest. I said, this can work, but you're going to be doing this for a few weeks. So do you want faster results, or are you okay? So think about how fast do you want to get there? And the other thing is to also remember that, yes, any consultant should try and make the parents comfortable, but sometimes what makes them comfortable is not what the baby needs. Like it will not fit the baby's temperament. Now, when we say temperament, we're talking babies 8 months up. Younger than that, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame, in my opinion. But being very realistic about what you're okay with, what you're not okay with. Let the person you speak with, who's going to be in charge, coming up with your sleep plan. No, this is what I'm okay with. This is not what I'm okay with. I'm okay with meeting in the middle, that type of thing. And so I like to ask the same. I ask questions when I'm having a consultation with a family. I say, what questions do you have for me? And then I will let them know I'm okay with meeting in the middle and changing things up as long as it has us progressing forward, whatever that looks like. And sometimes it looks like a combination of different methods. And do you want to be on a schedule? Do you not want a schedule? Okay, great. Then let's work with this. Let's do this. And I think it's just communication. It's teamwork. Parents have to be honest throughout the process with the sleep consultant because we're seeing it from like, I want to get you to point A to point B. I'm not emotionally invested, right? But I'm thinking of it more logically. Let me get you guys to your goal. So if there's something that you feel is not right, you need to let me know or whatever sleep consultant you're working with.
Yeah, I can totally see that because you kind of have to do some soul searching
Yeah.
when you're especially a first time parent, because there's this mindset of like, oh, when I'm a parent, I'm going to do this or I'll never do that. And then you actually become a parent.
Yeah.
And it changes the game. The
Right.
things that you thought you would want to do, you don't want to do. The things you said you would never do, you're doing them. And that's not to say like, oh, you don't know yourself or whatever, but I'm just saying when you're in it, I think it can kind of change based on your circumstances and your situations. And then also having subsequent children where they have a totally different temperament than the first, then you have to relearn all of the things and be fine with pivoting the approach that you had the first time. I know that's what we went through, where Ellie was a fantastic sleeper and we did taking care of babies, and it was a phenomenal course because Ellie was such an easy sleeper. And then Daniel, we did not have that luxury of being able to just stay strict to like the rhythms and the schedules and all the things like we did with Ellie. And so Daniel just didn't have that type of smooth sleep, it took more time for him. And he's a great sleeper now, but I mean, it took over a year. Whereas with Ellie, 5.5 months, she was like sleep trained, sleeping 12 hours through the night. And so, it's different. And it's so important to just have that grace for yourself as you're learning all this whole other side of parenting.
Even in your own kids, if you're on kid 2, kid 3, or anything after your first child, even if you were to sleep train them at the same age you did the first one, there's no guarantee that what you do the first time around is going to work the second time around because they're so different. So, I think that's why I always love working. I have a few families that I've worked with who are on kid 2 or 3, and they're like, we don't even want to attempt on our own. We already know who we're going to go with. And she knows us already. I know what to present them with. I know their style. And it just makes it a lot easier. And it makes it feel like more like your friends, really, when you've already kind of connected in that way. So I love it.
I love that. So for the tired mamas listening who feel like they've tried everything, but nothing seems to be working, is there a simple mindset shift or something that you could encourage them to take away from your expertise?
I would say, I actually want to speak to the nursing mom, because every family that I work with when there is nursing, that is a big association that babies have naturally, right? As a sleep consultant, we're not going in to say you're never nursing your baby. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. But I will say I highly encourage, once your milk is established, once, everything's going smooth, introduce the bottle for at least one feeding. Number 1, that is going to give you a break. Number 2, it gives somebody else a chance to connect with your baby, but also if at any point you are not available to feed your baby, they understand how to take a bottle. Because I finished up with a family recently and she would leave work to come nurse and then go back to work because baby refused from anybody else. And then we started working on sleep training and he was taking it from dad, the nanny. I mean, just huge changes, and more because of what it did for her mental psyche. Because I think sometimes we're so baby mode, we forget, okay, well, how is this affecting me? Because now I feel like I'm just nonstop as a feeder, which, okay, baby needs you to feed, of course. But then also what is it doing to your spouse? They're looking at you depleting because you're doing so much. Maybe you're not even sleeping in the same room, because I've worked with families that they have not slept in the room since baby was born, right? So be honest with your spouse. Where are you at? What is it that your spouse wants? Some husbands are afraid to be honest with their wives because they don't want to hurt them. But be honest with each other. Offer at least one bottle once that milk and everything has been established. And then think about, what is your goal? At the end of the day, when baby is however old, what do you want sleep to look like for you and for this baby? Because if baby's not sleeping, you're not sleeping. If you're not sleeping, you are not going to be as 100% of yourself as you want to be.
I love that you say that, because we definitely struggled with that whole bottle situation with Ellie, where we did not introduce a bottle until she was well past, I want to say, like, I know you're supposed to try and introduce it between 3 to 6 weeks when breastfeeding is well established, whatever that means for the, the mom and the baby. I mean, some families, it really is closer to that 6-week mark, but we were well past that.
Yeah.
And so we kind of missed that window of opportunity to try to introduce the bottle to her. And by the time we did, she absolutely refused the bottle. She only wanted the breast. And that made me so stressed out. There was like an instance when she was maybe 8 weeks old and I had a dentist appointment and I had to leave her and left her here with Brian. And then Brian calls me like on the verge of tears because she's not taking the bottle that we, have been trying to give her. And it was so stressful. Just, I mean, little things like going to the dentist became this whole ordeal because we didn't have that, that foresight to, okay, this is a good idea, even if this isn't a super regular thing, but just with some regularity, a couple bottles a week, having dad or, nanny or somebody else, grandparent, give the bottle. Usually it's, helpful for mom to even not be in the room or sometimes even in the house if that baby is very much preferring to only nurse. But that does, it establishes such a healthy dynamic in the family to where mom doesn't feel like the feeding responsibility it can only be her. And then dad and other family and friends and sitters can be involved with the care, so mom and dad can step away separately, together, eventually for dates and seeing friends and maybe down the line going on a trip. It's so helpful. And I was so grateful for that experience to just be able to kind of know the mindset behind that. And it was truly just a place for me with Ellie where I just wanted to love my baby girl by just nursing her and all the things, but I neglected that other half of, but this also put all of us at a disadvantage. And so it is important to do that. So I'm glad you brought that up because that is a huge part. And then, sharing that responsibility in the night so that mom can actually get some sleep with the child. Like I said, Ellie was a good sleeper. And so that was the other kind of, it was like a, double-edged sword there where she was a good sleeper. And so it wasn't like an issue for me to nurse her because she would usually go right back down to sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're a mom nursing your baby who just will not go back to sleep or really has an issue sleeping after nursing in the night, you need help because sleep is vital to all of your functioning.
Exactly. I mean, it's not even just like, oh, I feel rested and have energy. It's like, no, it actually, if you are sleep deprived, it affects everything in your body. So like, it's more than, oh, let me just sleep train because, nobody's sleeping. I do it honestly more because of the couples that I work with. Like, I'm here for your marriage. And if your husband is sleeping or you are sleeping in separate rooms for going on 6-7 months, I'm not okay with that. I can guarantee your spouse isn't okay with it. He just doesn't know how to tell you because we're protective over our babies, right? So, I always say, like, we need to think about all those things so that nobody gets forgotten in the mix of while we're trying to figure out what does motherhood look like, because it is, you kind of get lost in it, especially your first time around because you don't know what you're doing and, you want to be the best that you can be. And, and actually the other thing is I would say really more towards like month 3 of your baby being born, aim to at least put them down for a nap in their own sleep space at least once per day. Get them used to what is going to be where they are going to, end up eventually. Co-sleeping is a real thing. Most of the babies that I work with is because they're co-sleeping and they don't know how to kind of gently find ways to get them to their own space. So, aim at least one nap after baby is 3 months old or at 3 months and get them used to their spot.
I love that. Well, thank you, Jamie, so much for sharing your personal stories and your incredible expertise. If a family wants to connect with you to learn more about sleep consulting and ways that you can serve them in that way, how can people get a hold of you?
You can find me on Instagram under Little Ones Sleep Society or on my website, littlenonesleepsociety.com.
Wonderful. And I'll have all of that in the show notes as well. But thank you so much again. You are a delight, and I just loved hearing your wild stories. It is not about perfection in motherhood.
Yeah.
It is not about things going exactly to the plan that you wanted for your birth, your motherhood journey, your sleep journey, but truly is up to the Lord and in his sovereignty to have everything pan out the way that he has called it to. And when we, like what you did, where you just have time to meditate on that and to really just trust the Lord, not just in theory, but as it's happening, trusting him with the outcome, knowing that he is in control, even when it seems out of control, even if the outcome that happens was the literal last thing you wanted, that he's still good, even in that situation. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh gosh, I'll talk about him anytime. And the amount of women that I've been able to, actually military spouses specifically, have gone through almost the same type of story. And I'm like, I've never had that happen before. And now all of a sudden it happens to me. And there's like all these women in my face that are going through it. And I'm like, at least I know. So it's not for nothing. Do you know what I mean? So
absolutely. And you're so right. I feel like the more we share our stories, the more other women come out of the woodworks and they're like, that happened to me too, or that happened to somebody close that I love. And it just brings us all together, especially as sisters in Christ, where we get to just band together and be like, this situation sucks. I have some friends and, clients right now walking through some very, very hard stuff. But, when we bring other women into this experience, we get to love and encourage each other in a way that's like filled with truth. It is not, I hope things work out or I hope everything is okay, but knowing that the Lord truly is working all things for our good and his glory, always, in everything. And we get to rest in that truth uniquely as those that love and follow Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you, Jamie.
I appreciate it.
That's it for today on Faith Over Fear, the Christian Pregnancy and Birth podcast. I hope today's conversation encouraged your heart and equipped you to trust God more deeply in your pregnancy, birth, and motherhood journey. Hey, before you go, I want to gift you with a freebie. I've compiled some of my most popular resources inside the Christian Mama Birth Prep Library. It includes practical birth prep handouts, such as the labor positions cheat sheet, birth preferences checklist, and provider questions guide. You'll also get exclusive discounts and even a worship labor playlist to bring God's peace into your birth space. To get instant access, simply visit faithoverfearbirth.com or click the link in the episode show notes to sign up. You'll receive immediate access to these valuable resources created just for you. If today's episode blessed you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with some other mamas who could use this encouragement. Your support helps more women find this podcast and embrace faith-filled birth and motherhood. Let's keep choosing faith over fear. Bye-bye for now.